Welcome to the special meeting, budget presentation by Donald Nunes. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's all yours, Donald.
All right, cool, thank you. So before I get started about the DPW budget, I just want to say how thankful and grateful I am for being able to present today, and also how thankful and grateful I am that for our division managers, which I have, and the upper management staff I had, including Bill Dufour, Fred Gerber, Ken Boulette, Rick Davenport, Mark Garr, Ray Sedward, and Todd Mathewson. I think if you have a chance to meet with them, they're just been so good for DPW, and I really just appreciate everything they have done for us. So to get started, our 23-24 proposed operating budget comes in about 19.642 million, and WPC has been broken out, and they're at 3.971 million. Just some pictures up on the screen there in the upper left-hand corner. This was at the Annex Gym where we removed all the bleachers there. It was a three division task where we had RRM, highway, and B&G staff there helping remove that. We did some tree plantings with some kids over at Barnard. That's the middle picture, do our road work, and my little homage to Smitty, who passed this year. So that's Ron Smith, everyone. So our approved budget for 2022-23 was 18,109,96, and this year we're proposing 19,642,622, which accumulates or accounts for 8.46% increase. Our FTEs have remained the same at 134 for both years. WPC budget went up very slightly at 0.06%, and their FTEs have also stayed the same with 16 on board. Now again, our goal at DPW is to provide exceptional public service to our Enfield residents, businesses, and visitors. And for our budget, again, it is reported and managed in 8 separate divisions: admin and the engineering office, building and grounds, building inspection, custodial services, equipment maintenance and repair, otherwise known as fleet, highway maintenance, RRM, and water pollution control. So I did a budget snapshot by division to show you where some of the increases happened. Admin has been pretty much the 3% raise, 3% increase. Building and grounds went up slightly, a couple $100,000, but again, most of this can be attributed to the 1029 contract and a few other items which I'll discuss later. Building inspection went up, it seems like a lot at 8.5%. We have a staff member that one staff member moved on who didn't have insurance, and now another one did, and we had some insurance changes, so that hit a little harder there. Custodial services is primarily, if not like 95% salary, so with the settling of the 1029 contract, that had a large impact on it. Equipment maintenance has gone up slightly, same thing with highway. RRM, we are forecasting unfortunately for a much higher rate for MSW and recycling, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, and WPC has pretty much stayed the same. So just regrouping with some overtime just to help how we have to fill in sometimes with how to backfill with custodial, how to backfill with B&G and the like. In FY22, we were budgeted $532,100, and the actual was $674. So we wound up transferring in almost basically $140,000 into those accounts just to square up and to zero up those accounts. So far in 22, we've been budgeted $512,000, and we have spent $518,000 with about, again, in 22-23. We just transferred about $55,000 to help cover the overages that we are going to expect through the end of this year. Budget snapshot by division just goes to show that the 3 biggest divisions, building and grounds at 5.3, custodial at 4.9 million, and RRM comprise the big 3, if you will, and WPC is not there because it doesn't affect this budget for here. Our FTEs have again remained the same, which has been great. So our total FTEs, like I said before, has been 134, and water pollution control has been 16, and that has been steady for the last few years. So the budget changes, now there was an error that I will readily admit that was my fault. It should be $1.53 million on your printout, not the 1.53 or 5.5, forgot to add one in there. That was my fault, sorry about that. So the budget increase of $1.53 million is primarily due to the building inspection, driven by salary costs, which was again another settled contract, and health insurance changes. Custodial services, like I discussed, is primarily salaries, and with 1029 being settled, it amounts to $322,000, $322,705 in increase. But again, this is based on like we have to catch up for the last several years with that. Equipment maintenance and repair, the major increases in drivers for that are vehicle repairs and parts price increases. If we can get parts, we've had some serious supply chain issues with that, which I'll talk later, but something simple, we had a water pump on a newer police vehicle that now takes almost 12 hours to replace instead of the typical 2 to 3 hour one. So to spend 12 hours replacing a water pump, was a big change of labor cost and also the actual cost of the part itself. Now RRMs went up because of disposal costs, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, and also the large motor fuel costs, which have diesel has just not come down and been really cooperative with us. So we spend a significant dollar amount in motor fuel for them. So I broke this up into challenges and opportunities per division. So I'm going to talk about challenges first for the administration and the engineering office. So we just were, Fred Gerber's been working on an unfunded mandate with the school HVAC inspection. We are required now to have a full HVAC inspection of schools that we never had to do before. Now this includes all steam traps, boilers, everything involved with those schools to identify that, and if there's any deficiencies, we're supposed to repair them and move them on. So this is once every 5 years, and so we have to still keep at this, but this is a brand new thing that's coming out. School modernization is a challenge. It's gonna be an opportunity and a challenge, but for now, with the uncertainty of where we are with school modernization, we're at a kind of a standstill on some of the capital improvement costs and where we go with, do we improve some of these buildings even though they may come down? We're at that kind of interesting crossroads in this part of it, so if something, hopefully nothing catastrophic does happen in the next few years while we figure out the modernization. We do have an aging sidewalk infrastructure along with buildings and our own infrastructure. The engineering office is working hard these days with John Cabibbo, the assistant town engineer, and JP Rodriguez, the road engineer, who is helping out also WPC at this time to fill in the gap where the engineering aide has moved on. So JP is also working over there. So those two gentlemen are readily taxed, but I'm helping in where I can on that start. And again, complying with new state and federal regulations has been a challenge as well. But on the good news, on a positive front, I applied for a LOTSIP grant, and we were awarded $537,000 to do the Terry Brook Crossing, which is on Summers Road, right near the Summers line. And were awarded $713,690 for the Abbey Road sidewalk going from Broadbrook to Town Farm Road. So fortunately that is that. So regarding LOTSIP, the only thing that the town is responsible for is design. LOTSIP pays for construction and inspection and contingency costs. So figure 10% of that money for each one, that's what we're gonna have to come up with, about plus or minus. That's the only thing that we are responsible for. We also have a robust pavement preservation program run by JP, who's doing a great job with that. Buildings and grounds, we have had quite a supply chain. I mean, if anybody is in the business of just trying to get anything these days, it has been brutal trying to find pumps, parts, just the simplest things that we can buy. And we are reaching out to a many variety of different sources to go find these things. It has been nothing short of a challenge. Butch, our electrician, bought a pump for $1,400 that last year was $300. So things like that we keep running into, which is kind of setting up roadblocks for us. Our energy prices are steadily increasing. Some of the budget shortfalls that we've had in the past are preventing proper maintenance, and we're kind of more of reactive instead of preventative, and I really want to make that switch to go to more to preventative instead of a complete reactionary sort of method of working. And we have aging parks and playgrounds and the like. But opportunity-wise, we really gotta hire a licensed HVAC tech and a licensed plumber. Our plumber, his last date of employment will be May 15th. So we're gonna be advertising for that. We have had poor, if no luck, for an HVAC technician. Some of it has to do with salary. Some of it is just finding somebody who knows new stuff and old stuff. We had somebody come out and take a look at a new person just came out of school basically, and we brought him over this was about a year ago, we brought him over to one of our older boilers, and you would think that that person was staring into the human brain because they had no idea what that was, because it's not a modern day system, it's an old 80-year-old steam system, and they had no idea what it was about. So it just didn't work out and the like, so we're gonna try to pursue that again this year. We can't thank you enough for summer help. We have 2 so far on board, and hopefully we get some more. And our field usage, hopefully with the high school and JFK reopening, hopefully JFK, we can take some of the pressure off of that and have some more fields available there. Building inspection, some of our customer timelines are really taxing our building inspection division, only because we have they have delays with materials, so when they finally get them in, it's rush, put them in, then now it's on our staff to hurry up, rush, get out there so we can try to help them move on and move forward. So that has been sort of a challenge. This next one is very interesting because the customer aptitude right now, because there is such a shortage of people who want to do the work, or their work is so exorbitantly priced that people just start doing it themselves. So we wind up spending so much time telling people, no, you gotta put this sort of trap in here, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, and they spend so much time at the counter and over in the field to actually make them understand this is how you're gonna do it to get through. So again, there's just a lot of time devoted to residents again when they come to the counter to make sure that they can pass their inspections. And new codes are constantly changing, which are frustrating to many people, but they are the codes and we have to protect it. So opportunity-wise, our staff has been doing a great job of guiding the customers to make safe work practices, and we're really trying to make a dent in those ones that are really kind of sketchy and making it safe for the residents and for renters and the like. We create better built and inspected homes in the town over the long term by doing all these things, all these time-intensive trainings to the residents and the like. And the good part about this is right now, we are on pace for $1.5 million in revenue by building inspection division this year. So that's pretty good. Last year was 1.22, I believe. So right now we're on pace for 1.5. Custodial services, the availability and price fluctuations. Again, same thing. This is sort of a running theme that you'll find throughout that. Again, supply shortages, supply chain issues, we have some productivity issues because we're working and more on back orders, and all of a sudden when our products come in, gotta hurry up and do things. Now, an interesting one now, our cost of supplies, our cleaning and paper supplies have increased 25%. Now, we've been using the same 2 companies that have been on, we've been using them religiously for years and years, and they've been up 25% over the last 2 years for the same materials, exact same. We've been fortunate to have some equipment upgrades, and we're also, by having some of those newer equipment purchases that we've had that we're able to get this year through transfers and the like, our goal is to have cleaner buildings, and our staffing shortages, which we don't have now, we are fully staffed, and that hasn't happened. It happened this year, and I've been here for 10, and it's the first time in 10 years we actually have everybody on board as far as I know. So that is a wonderful opportunity. Equipment maintenance and repairs, our parts pricing has increased again about 25% over the last few years. Labor rates for bringing our vehicles out to work have also increased, so that also increased the cost for the vehicles. The labor shortage has extended some vehicle service delays that we had. We had some people out, but now we have everybody back again, and just sort of this timing of everything. So that has caused a little bit of delays in getting our vehicles out. But this is another interesting sort of fact here. In 2002, our parts budget was $310,000, and now 22 years later, we're at $341. So it's a little, gotta possibly build that up. So to Rick's, kudos to Rick, because he's been trying to find a way to purchase smarter and more efficiently. We're going on Amazon, we're trying every single thing to find parts, and when we find them, we're shopping and shopping and shopping, and I give a lot of credit to Rick for doing what he does. Because of that, we're using everything in our power to try to find these parts and get them here quicker and less expensive. Again, we've been phasing out older vehicles, which has been fantastic in that the older vehicles require more services. And we're also looking again to possibly building our larger electric vehicle fleet. So highway, some of our again, we share a workforce with RRM. There's 4 folks that do that back and forth. So sometimes we have inconsistent staffing levels on each one of depends on what day, again, vacations and the like. That's been a challenge for us, but it's overcomable. But sometimes when a new person is on the trash route, sometimes they forget things or whatever it is. That's the kind of things that we kind of work out with that. The price and availability issues of materials, again, this is a running theme that we have in difficulty finding things that we need. Equipment replacement and the rapid deterioration of our infrastructure, particularly our drainage systems. That's been getting us now. So I know that Councilman Nelson brought up College Street and at College and Church. That's just something that we deal with all the time. Our drainage systems are getting there. So when I took over as roads, when I came here in 2013 under roads, we never really did drainage. We kind of just did everything above it. So now when I was convinced the previous director that we should go that route. So now every single street we do, we either videotape it to understand the condition of it. If it's bad, we replace it. If it's good, we'll line it. So we're working on ways so we don't have to ever go back to this. But this at the time wasn't, like the current break we have on Church and College wasn't replaced at the time. So that's part of that aging infrastructure that happens. Some of our opportunities, we've had additional training time. We were really back. Fred has been pushing the trainings, and we're back with that again. We are catching up on equipment replacement schedules, which has been great. We're looking to get a wood chipper to expand our storm capacity, and we got to really continue that preventative maintenance on our infrastructure, and we're looking to expand our tree work coming up. Our disposal price increases are just shot up. The MSW in particular, we're looking at going from basically $83 a ton to $108 a ton for MSW, and recycling is going to be at about $107. We did solicit two different companies, and one of the companies offered a reduced rate, but we'd have to travel considerably further, and the benefit cost to that does not equal the $10 difference in the price. We have an increased tonnage of vegetative debris lately. It is, for some reason, it just keeps coming in, and we don't know where it's coming from, but we do have some increased vegetative debris. We do have some aging fleet issues at RRM, and the biggest one that we keep having issues with is the illegal dumping and commingling of the MSW and recycling and all demo. So that all just has to go to junk, which causes just more money and the like. And when we did the transfer station, we had a host of supply chain issues, but now I think we're out of it. I think we're good, and we're almost ready to have the big ribbon cutting pretty soon, and got to figure out who's going to drive over the scale for the first time. So we'll figure that out. So. Some of our opportunities, we got to.
It has to be an Enfield taxpayer. Not you, Steve, I'm sorry.
Are you a taxpayer?
I am, but I'm not a scale operator. So it's gotta be an Enfield taxpayer. Maybe Mr. Nelson, yeah, well, for Councilor Bismarck though.
So we're gonna be making a push to get more textiles out of the waste stream, and the improved transfer station should be more efficient disposal services. We also had an increased household hazardous waste collection. So on the, last Saturday, there was the total residents were 479 vehicles that went through there.
Is that an increase from last year?
Yes, significant increase.
Well, last year we were limited, remember,
Yeah.
because of the budget, but this year was, you know, what they can do, but, oh yeah, this is quite a bit of people.
And they all did that within, they had some pretty miserable working conditions outside in the storm, you know, in the rain, everybody, it was wonderful, so.
You mean because they had to work with Doug, miserable
No,
conditions?
I was at the transfer station. Wow.
Next.
Sit between you guys, I think I need to sit here.
Oh, no, but this is gonna be a good morning. Friendly one, though. Here we go.
Yeah. And so water pollution control, we have, our biggest challenge that I've even faced when I first started in this position 5 years ago has been trying to find qualified and properly trained staffing. It is a unique position, it is a unique place to work. It's gross, to be honest, it's disgusting. There are some very just nasty things out there, and to find that kind of person that wants to have that and to find the qualifications, it's very difficult these days to have a CDL, to require a CDL and to be an operator one at a minimum is a lot. So we've been struggling, especially the last few years. We've had some high employee turnover rates recently. I think we've lost 8 in the last 3 years, 8 people, and most of them, majority of them went somewhere else for better funding, and 2 people just couldn't stomach the sometimes challenging conditions, and they said it's just, then they had enough. Supply chain issues and the salaries are lacking behind other municipalities. But we do have an opportunity to train our employees to a minimum standard. We're really working on employee retention. We've been our supply stockpiles, we're trying to get those back in because of the uncertainty and volatility of the very unique chemical market, which is required. Todd has done a great job in operating on a proactive level with adequate training and full staffing. But what we're gonna be bringing up to you folks in the next couple of months is a reorganization to become more current with job descriptions to match the local state licensing. So right now we have 12 employees, we have 15 different job descriptions, and none of them really align to the current state class 1 operator, class 2, class 3, and class 4. So what we're trying to do is get all that together and have a more uniform look for it. So again, we know that a grade 1 operator coming from wherever is minimally qualified and will fit right in. That's the goal of that whole reorg, which really isn't gonna, it should be basically cost neutral. But again, it's just more job descriptions and the like. So that's gonna be coming soon to a theater near you. So our budget takeaways, this budget that is presented does account for $108 a ton for MSW, which equates to a $25 increase per ton. We were $107 per ton is for recycling. Now again, I know that many of you can remember, yes, we did get paid for this at one point. A few years ago, we got paid for this, and now this stuff is, a lot of it is just garbage, and that's what's happening. We don't have any disposal facilities left in Connecticut. We don't have, we have one major recycling facility that is used, and they just upgraded a $40 million upgrade down there. But again, there's really no market for a lot of these things, and those people are struggling. That's why the cost of recycling is going so high. We've had large energy and utility increases, but it does support the town council goals. It maintains, not enhances, but maintains the infrastructure. It also maintains and improves customer service. So, again, you can have all this that I just talked about for a mere $23,614, and out of that DPW is 19.6 and WPC is 3.9. So Before I answer any questions, I know most of you've seen this with the packets, but I did want to take a few minutes to offer a much-needed warm and fuzzy moment. Just everybody, the world is just in a really weird, wonky place. I just want to take a few minutes to just have a little warm and fuzzy moment with my dogs. So the dog, the Hula, who is a Beagle Whippet mix. Think about that for a second. A Beagle Whippet mix.
That's a hound dog.
She thought last summer that a garden potato was a rock, so she went to bite it and cracked her teeth. That's why she has those nice gap in there. She spit it out very funnily. And there's Happy, my mini dachshund on the right. She's just loving spring. So those are the two pictures that are there, but I snuck in two more since I wanted to keep it. So back to the Beagle Whippet. Take a look at how long her legs are
Yeah.
on that. It goes from here all the way to
That's the
there.
whipping part.
That's the whippet
The
part.
other one
yeah.
looks like a beagle, not a dachshund.
I know,
Nice on
that
it.
looks like a beagle.
And but look
Sure
at
is
her,
that
look at
Happy?
Happy on the right. How can you look at? So
They're all cute.
Yeah.
that's Happy. So
I
a
know.
little bit of little warm and fuzzy for you.
Been there, done that.
So any questions?
Counselor Nelson?
First, if you could double check Church Street, because I'm pretty sure that was a full reconstruction on that road.
2011.
Right, but if our storm drains aren't gonna last 10 years, the ones
Yeah.
before it lasted 100 years.
I know. I will. Yeah. I do have plans of that. I'll take a look at it.
I mean,
But-
maybe we should reevaluate that contractor who did that road, if they're not willing to stand behind their work on a major reconstruction like that, because Church Street was a mess for a long time.
Yeah, that was.
Maybe we reconsider not letting him do some future road work in Enfield if he's only gonna get 10 years out of brand new drainage. My second question is the overtime. You have substantial overtime in custodial and buildings and grounds. And we had no snow this year to speak of. And, I guess just a better explanation of why we had so much overtime and considering you were fully staffed with custodians?
So custodial services with the overtime, if there's movement in between, so if one custodian wants to go from JFK to EHS, okay? And we move that person over, by contract, we have 30 days. They can try that job out for 30 days. I cannot fill that EHS job until that person makes a decision either to go back to EHS or sign off or waive their 30 days. So if we need people, we have to backfill with overtime to cover that shift. So the day shifters will work overtime to go cover that person who is working elsewhere at the time. So when there's movement like that, we have, the 1029 contract allows for 30 business days to try out the job. So in the meantime, we've had considerable movement inside, moving around, so any one of those spots has to be backfilled with that.
Right, so it costs the taxpayers $70,000 for a custodian to make a decision on what building he wants to work in. If they wanna switch buildings,
Yep.
it should be on their dime, not on ours.
Steve?
Well, it's contract language, so we gotta
Well,
honor that.
that's something we need to look at then, cause that's a lot of money.
I have a feeling it's more than that. Do we have
No,
it on FMLA or that haven't been working? That's usually a bigger energy or a bigger
Yeah, I mean, but
overtime
that's, a
suck.
lot of it has to do with the internal movement, and there was a few people that were out, and now that we've backfilled, again, we've had to backfill with that. Now, regarding the snow and that for buildings and grounds, the snow, the portion that they do during the majority of the storm is billed to highway. The other part, they still have to go do sidewalks, they still have to go the outer, they call them the outer, what is it? Not the outer walks, what is it? 6 o'clock walk, whatever it is, we have some,
The other walks, yeah.
some funky terminology. But they work outside of that afterwards, so even though the snow stops, let's say on a Monday at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, those B&G guys are still doing stuff through Tuesday to clean up.
Yeah.
Like the industrial park, the snow blowing, all that kind
I
of.
understand all of that.
How
Yeah,
many
but we-
events were on holiday or a Sunday?
Weekends.
whereas.
I have
most
a whole breakdown of the,
Okay.
I can call it up, but.
But also too with the custodians is that you have to realize is that they weren't fully staffed, so, and you can't use the part-timers past a certain amount of time. I think it's 4 hours per night, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I think that's what it was. And so like with the openings and then people moving 30, it's not just that the employee has the 30 days of seeing if he wants a job. The town also has the right to determine if this employee is going to be worth having there for 30 days.
My point is there's $70,000 additional than what was budgeted last year for overtime. That's unacceptable. Considering custodians are set, their jobs are fixed for the most part, unlike buildings and grounds, which we can't determine the overtime because of the snowfall.
Right.
Now, last year we had minimum snowfall at best, and we still got $55,000 in overtime. So either it wasn't budgeted properly, or there's a serious problem that we need to address.
We
Now,
also
that's
budgeted for a vacancy. I'm sorry, we budgeted for a vacancy in there too, though, so we reduced the regular salaries because of that rule.
So if we've got $70,000 because of moving employees, that needs to be addressed in the next contract. Because the taxpayers should not be picking up that cost. I understand if the gentleman wants to switch positions, but, you know, if I switch jobs, I don't have 30 days to say, hey, I don't like this, and go back to my old job and tell them, I want my job back. That's unacceptable at $70,000.
But the alternative to that is that if they don't have 30 days, then that means they'd be out of a job. Which
If
is,
they didn't like their transfer,
right,
then they'd reconsider transferring.
well, but then that doesn't, that might not solve our problem if they're not a good fit in one area, but they're a better fit in another area. Every union has come to expect movement within their department. If we keep them that they have to stay in this department for 30 years and they can't move, I don't know how we're gonna get that passed. All unions have innate in them ability to transfer when there's
understand,
opening
Steve.
for promotions.
I understand, but if you leave the town of Enfield and go work for Bloomfield and you don't like it, you don't
Wait,
have
no,
the rights to
that's
come
not
back. Excuse me, Doug,
Sorry, go ahead.
alright? And my last one is, with all the controversy over Brainerd Park, and they even had a clean sweep in there a couple weeks ago or last week. There's still couches and everything dumped over there. I mean, it's been 8 months, we've been working on this, and we can't go in there with the claw truck, reach in there and pull the couches, recliners, TVs, air conditioners, and everything out of that ditch. And how many residents came to us and said, now you are aware of this problem, and it's still not addressed. It's kind of embarrassing. That's all I have.
Councilor Mangini.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and the explanation, I really appreciate it. I do have a couple questions. One related to employees. If I'm understanding this correctly, my observation and from Budget Book, we are under employed for our workers in buildings and grounds especially. But yet I see, and this could just be my interpretation, you've got Assistant Director Public Works, Deputy Director Public Works, Director Public Works. I understand, you need the management, but my question along those lines as well goes to custodial. You've got the regular custodian, assistant head, custodian in charge. Is there any way that we could add to our workforce and not have so many administrative people? I mean, I don't know really how the operation functions, but I just know for a fact that we don't have enough workers. And the workers we have are stressed and overworked, is what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, with my own two eyes, so how do we correct that? How do we address that?
So with custodians, there's always a head custodian, at a school, there's always a head custodian at a school during the day, then there's an assistant, then there's workers underneath them, so that's where that comes in, but that person is still a custodian, but they're the foreman, if you will, at that school. Same thing with second shift, there's always the nighttime custodial.
So you need all those players.
That's what I've inherited, since
Well, I understand
yeah.
inherited, but is it something we need to look at and say, okay?
I had the
I
same
mean, it's
exact
just-
question.
It's just something that jumps out at me when I see these men and women that are working feverishly to take care of our town, and then you've got administration. I don't understand how that is. So maybe it's something we could, research, we could look at and say, hey, take some of that money going to administration and get some of our workers, maybe they need more money, I don't know, bring in more people to do the real work. That really is the crux of my question, part A and part B. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you. A couple questions, and thanks for the pretty detailed presentation. What's the cost of the wood chipper you're looking for, approximately?
I don't have that with me.
Okay. So you mentioned, vehicle part increases being a big percentage of, the budget and budgetary ask. Are there particular vehicles that are most, repaired, or is this just across?
It's just in general that everything has gone up, just all across the board it's gone up.
Okay. And then lastly, kind of on the topic of hiring, what does our bench look like? I know there are a couple people in town in DPW and WPC who are indispensable. Is there a good pipeline to train people? I know some people leave and may use kind of Enfield as a career stepping stone, which is a problem. But is there a pathway for promoting people internally that you feel like is well enough funded?
Some divisions will have no problem with going forward. So if one division manager retires or moves on, I have no problem. My biggest concern, 100% is WPC. We just don't have, we have one grade 3, we have one grade 4, who is Todd, who is the superintendent. We have one grade 3, we have 2 grade 2s, then everybody else are 1s and 0s underneath that. So that is our biggest challenge, is trying to find, that is gonna be the biggest challenge, is WPC.
And that's a statewide challenge, so it's not just unique to us.
Yes.
Is there any funding asked that could help rectify that, or is it really just there are not enough people in the state of Connecticut that we could even attract?
I think with the potential for the reorg and how that would take place, to have it more aligned with everybody else in the state, I think that would be a first step with that, and some of that alignment is salary, but some of that is also job descriptions to, again, make it more in tune with the state.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Piznik.
Okay, so I'm gonna echo what Cindy said, because I actually had that in my book as well. So on page 39, I'm asking, we have 2 deputy directors. I don't know why we need 2. And on page 43, we have a facilities manager.
Mark Barr.
Okay, and then we have crew leaders, which I understand the crew leaders, but again, it seems kind of top-heavy. I'm looking at it like it's top-heavy.
We just added that position though, because the need was justified last year. For the
Well, I'm
second
sure,
deputy.
I voted no on the contract, so I did vote no on this contract.
Not in this contract, though.
Well, again, but
was
I'm
a-
just
it was
saying,
not new.
I'm looking at it and I'm gonna echo, I think it looks kind of top-heavy. That's me.
Can I just respond to Mark Carter, because he's responsible for how many custodians as a supervisor, and then how many B and Gs?
23.
So the ratio for supervisor to 70-something is way out of whack. When I came from East Hartford, there was a lot more proportionate. The crew leaders can't impose discipline, they're not supervisors, they're crew leaders, they can guide, they can train, but they don't have supervisory responsibilities. Mark Carter is the only one that is a supervisor for all the custodians and all the B and G people.
And then the crew leaders are,
They're in the same union, they can't do discipline, they can't,
You're in 1029.
they're in 1029.
okay, so that would be like a Kenny Keto's crew leader.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. There's no, they're not supervisors. They couldn't be in that union if they were a supervisor.
I just have that to say.
Matt's, Matt's next. Matt,
Okay.
okay.
Thanks, Donald, thank you for your presentation, and thanks for all the hard work you do. Questions I had were, do we know yet how much so we put in that second timber barrel fee and the fees at the dumps that we increased Do we know what that's brought in, at all?
I don't have a proper accounting, but I can tell you that since that second barrel, since we have to charge for the second and third, we're probably down 1,000 tons right now. So our MSW per tonnage has come down almost about 1,000 tons.
Okay, so it has had an impact. Because my concern is, we did that to try to stop some of these increases, and it's still a 17% increase. So,
It's the big increase is because of the amount per ton, it's not,
Right.
so fortunately, our tonnage, we've been averaging around 14,500, right now, we're gonna be around 13,500
right,
when we're all said and done for this year.
okay, so like you confidently say it is making a significant difference?
100% it has made a significant difference, you know, again, 1,000 tons, that's.
The other thing that we've been doing is trying to stress diversion. So what you saw here for Earth Day with the textile
Right.
collection, electronics drop off, drug take back, which is more of a health safety issue,
Right.
shred it. Anything that we can keep out of the waste stream
Right.
is going to save the taxpayers money.
Right.
The astronomical cost and the trajectory of solid waste and recycling disposal over the last 7 years has been a huge burden for all municipalities. And with the state frankly, not being a great partner in trying to discuss solutions. They finally are starting to move off the dime, and these conversations have been going on for 5 years about what's in, what's out for recycling and a whole bunch of other issues.
Okay, yeah, I would just look, at some point, I know you're super busy, I'd love to see a number associated with that, but thank you very much.
So, like how many second barrels and third barrels you're talking?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All set?
Counselor Ludwig.
Donald, how you doing? I actually got some questions for
Don't
John.
even say it,
I got some
don't
questions for
say
John.
it about the Bruins, don't say
I
it,
won't.
don't say it.
So I'll leave that alone. So the easy one, how much left over do we have in the snow budget and where is it in your budget? Cause I don't remember voting on moving any of that money. So if you don't have the number, if you already showed it,
So, give me a second here. So this year, we had 13 storms.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there's 13 events that we responded to. Some of them were basically nothing, like to an inch, a little bit of snow here and there, and some were, the biggest three were the last 3 storms for the most part. But for the highway budget, we spent basically 100,000, there's 40 left. Mag chloride, there's, obviously, you know, folks can read all that, so that's the only thing that's remaining from that. But we also reduced last year's snow budget by about 100,000 this, from last year. to
so we got
cut
about
down.
100,000 over, roughly all four buckets added together roughly. I mean, you don't have to do it. It looks like 100 grand. Yeah.
It's a little over, yeah.
Yeah. So Donald, remind me, I know back when we got cut 4 or 5 years ago, we made changes. When do we send, we did some changes in how we did to save some money. When do we send out the plows? I know we do salt first, right? But I mean, we're not, you know, we're trying to manage having people come in and sit around and get paid overtime. Does that still happen?
Yeah, so when we know there's a snowstorm coming, we know we have to pre-treat the roads with salt. I'll bring in half the crew. So half of the crew for highway, which are 6 drivers, they'll do the 12 runs that are required for the roadways. So those folks do the 12 runs, they come in, they fuel up, basically have something, then by that time, we're timing it out when the plows go out. The same thing with B&G, we call in 5 or 6 people to come in to treat their roads and treat their buildings if it's depending on the timing. Then later on, 3-4 hours later, or 4 hours later, we bring in the rest of the crews to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So on your presentation, you had a new plumber and an HVAC. Is that included in this budget or is that something you still would like to have that's not
The
included?
plumber has always been part of the budget and same with HVAC.
So we didn't have a filled position, you filled it?
Well, the plumber was on FMLA for,
All year, pretty much.
so we didn't have a plumber, so we were outsourcing that
Got it,
position
okay.
because we couldn't fill that.
HVAC, we can't attract, that position's been funded
Well,
and.
but no, but you have 23 employees in your budget prior, so that HVAC was there, we just didn't have anyone.
No, we did not fund that it's there, but we didn't fund it, but there was other, so.
So now your current budget includes this plumber and a HVAC within.
We're trying, because the amount of work that Butch has to do, because Butch is the Butch has been doing, he's a master electrician, licensed in the state of Connecticut. He also does HVAC and he also does plumbing under duress.
So when we're outsourcing, or where does that, so I'm just trying to remember from a budget perspective, so that we allocate budget for, for a job, then we have to outsource, where does that come out of your budget?
That comes out of, I believe, the 614, hold on a second. Maintenance and building supplies and. There's building repairs and maintenance, so we have a couple line items that are big, in the $300,000 range that we use for that.
Within the budget the proposed budget, are there any salaries here that haven't been previously negotiated or agreed upon, meaning new increases proposed in this budget? So if someone was making currently, just got a raise at $100,000, just use round numbers, now you have it at 104, is there anything in here that is new that we haven't agreed upon prior? When it comes to salary increases?
It's all contractual, yeah, there's nothing else that.
Including non-union?
Yes.
We came to you to increase the cost, the salary for deputy, public works director, we couldn't attract, we had people.
Right, but is that salary based on what the council approved, or is it increased, or did you?
I think it should be reflected in here, because we did it mid-term.
What
When we came
would
to-
be in here is what was in effect as of January.
Right.
So those, positions, when they were given, they would have been in there, I think we had increased them to 115, so the two deputies are in there at 115.
So that was approved prior, it's not in addition to the new budget?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
These are budgeted the same way for non-union that we've always budgeted non-union.
Almost done, so Don, I mean, I guess, just wanna be, was there, what was your wish list that we're hearing that's in here, specific, is it capital improvement budget? Is it within your budget, or is it both?
My wish list would be, the biggest one is WPC, that honestly scares me, that again, the amount of work that Todd is being put under and to not have that qualified staff is, that really makes me nervous going forward. Looking out over the next few years, we just cannot attract that type of person to work there.
But that reorg is gonna be almost cost neutral, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken, we're gonna cannibalize that position, are we?
Yeah.
To
I'm
help
just
offset
saying,
it.
that's gonna be an issue no matter what. I mean, I hate to say it, any industry right now, again, I know I said, but we're facing the same thing in our industry. No, it's hard to find qualified people right now in any industry. So I think it's just gonna be an ongoing issue, it's something maybe we have to relook at and how we're gonna attract, because again, we just can't keep raising up salaries and think the taxpayers can afford it. That's not fair, I'll leave it there. And Donald, we did this, again, last question for you, I think, before I ask John, I'm sorry. 5 years ago, I always struggle in the budget when I get supplies and all this other stuff. I'm not saying, again, everyone has a little fudge in their budget, it's what you budget. And it's hard for me to say, even if it's so say you're at 2 million last year, you're at 2 million this year. Well, I don't know the inventory, and I've asked, I'd like to know what we have, do we really need another 2 million? Maybe we do, maybe we don't, but not having inventory on what we actually have, those line items always for me, I'm just my own opinion, I always consider them fluff line items, because unless you actually know how much equipment we already have, you don't know if you actually need another $2 million. I know it's in theory a pass in your line item, so it's in theory good news, but it could be already, again, you may already not even need that money to begin with. I'm not asking you, but can we get an inventory? And if it's not within 2 weeks, fine, but at some point of the equipment that we own?
Equipment wise, yeah, we can,
Alright,
everything's in
you can't get in
Munis.
2 weeks, that's fine, but if that's a future request.
Everything's in Munis, we have, I think, 400 something plus pieces of equipment right now that we have. And again, like, custodial supplies for inventory like that, the companies that we do work with allow us to keep our stuff at their place, so we don't have to go buy a pallet of whatever. We say we need 3 boxes or we need 3 cases of paper towels, they'll bring them.
Got it.
So that's helped us out tremendously, because we don't have to worry about having it on hand all the time, trying to find a home for it, so there isn't that backup.
Yeah.
But at least with that, we work with that.
Fair. I have 3 questions and I'm done, John, 2 for you. Thank you, Donald, appreciate it. Sir, what's this, do we have what's the surplus in the water, if we have one in the water pollution control fund currently? And what is left in the sinking funds and what roofs have actually been done at this point? Before, I know there's a roof referendum, so it's a separate question, but prior to that, Henry Barton was supposed to be complete along with, or at least underway, Eli Whitney.
Eli Whitney and, Hasbro.
Memorial is done,
So that's, all 3 are done.
yes.
But we're still waiting on money.
And do we have any money left in the sinking fund on any of that?
We do have money in the sinking fund, but not an awful lot of money in there. I would have to look that up. Give me-
Yeah, no worries, and then if you give me the current balance of water control, my last question, I'll end it, I was John looking. Just curious, this is just a general question, Donald, and I'm sorry, I know it's philosophical, but now we're at the point where recycling costs as much as regular trash, it seemed by your presentation. At some point, I mean, maybe this is, again, a policy decision by the town. We pay 32 grand in our budget for the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities every year. Why isn't this the number, and that's not a question to you, maybe it's a policy question. How has every municipality in the state not gotten together through them, if we're paying them that money, saying, now it's $1 less than regular trash, and we can't dispose it in the state of Connecticut? And why is, I mean, we got $32,000 in our budget every year, which I think is, again, I'd love to take it out for the Connecticut, I'm sorry, to be upfront, I don't think they do anything for us, my opinion, again, sorry. But again, if this is not only an Enfield issue, this is an entire state issue, and now it's $1 less to pay to dispose of recycling. It just doesn't, I'm sorry, it makes no sense to me, and I apologize, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. But it's like, man, you're right, we used to actually get paid for it.
Right.
And yet, we're paying the conference, I'm sorry, this is one of those issues they should be rallying every municipality, all 169 of us saying, this is a solution, this is the number 1 solution the state of Connecticut should be doing in their budget. Sorry, and if they don't do it, we should pull that 32 grand, I know it's 32 grand, but there's a principle involved here. That, I mean, it's the disposal, I mean, people gotta be scared about this, cause it's gonna get worse, this is not even, I hate to be over dramatic, but this is gonna get worse.
Yeah, I like to talk, we cited on, it's called CSWA, Central Connecticut Solid Waste Authority. They're trying to reconvene that, Matt Hart is behind that, trying to reconvene that, and it is a entire statewide problem.
Agreed.
There is no disposal facility within, about 150 miles, 100.
Is it the closest, Ohio, am I wrong?
That's where a majority of the stuff
Yeah.
goes out in freight.
So there's the entire solid waste as well as the recycling rebate to now paying for it goes back at least 7 years.
Right.
But really, CCM is trying to work on the issue. We have seen a lot of activity from CROG. Where we're not seeing activity is the State Department of Environmental Protection, because they refuse to acknowledge that the 20+ years that they spent first teaching people how to go red barrel, blue barrel,
Right.
is now defunct, that it's expensive, but they don't wanna talk about it. So they want us to continue to do anaerobic digestion and food waste composting and all of these crunchy type things without identifying
Right.
the issue that all of that is great if you can afford those, but we have to get to the core issue of what it's costing municipalities. When they're not a player, Councilor Ludwig, it's hard to get in the game.
I agree with you, I think it's the number 1 issue, and we've actually, think about it, we've actually encouraged people to get more free blue barrels. We're encouraging people, and it's gonna cost us even more.
So
And so it's, anyways.
This has probably been the biggest policy issue that we sit on Zoom calls, go to meetings, and it's predated my time here, and we had Covanta in
Right,
Bristol.
Yeah,
And we were very beneficial arrangements with that as a host community. I even called my contacts at Covanta to say, could you take our load? Because as much as it would be about a 90-minute round trip, if we could save $15 off of what was it, $84? What are we at now? $83.50, but when you do the cost benefit analysis of having our trucks on the road for that amount of time, sometimes if you get caught in line behind the private haulers, you can be in line for over an hour, that triggers overtime, it's wear and tear on the apparatus, it's not worth it.
right, fair.
So we've tried to explore all of these options, and it's really until the state makes a statement that they're willing to work with us and relax some of these really stringent requirements, it's a state law, so I can't, as much as I would like to, say, let's stop recycling. We can't, because then all of our state grants and all of our state money is in jeopardy. It's a very vicious circle.
Appreciate your answers, you know, and again, maybe last thing, is it for people, maybe it was 2 years ago? Maybe tell them what the cost to dispose this was compared to now, how much it's gone, I mean, I think at one point it was $13, if I'm saying 3 years ago, if I remember correctly. I mean, maybe not that low, but it was in that area where
17 for recycling, I think
Right,
it was.
my recycling wasn't around $13-15 a ton, now we're at $100.
Well, we used to get rebates on this.
Just so folks get an idea how quickly this is escalated. Thank you, sorry, I'm done.
Okay, well, hold on. John, you had your hand up, you're good? Okay, Councilor.
I just have one quick question. I know several years ago, they changed the hours for buildings and grounds so that they went on, so there was a Saturday shift. And that was, in theory, going to help the overtime situation. Has that worked?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Why hasn't
So should we be looking at going back again?
I would love to go back to the 5-day-a-week schedule and have overtime on Saturday.
Then why don't we?
We have different opinions. Have you evaluated it or what? I mean, there was a big push and I negotiated with the union because on the 4th of July is here on a Saturday.
Everything I'm
they're
hearing says
working.
it's not.
I negotiated with you.
And we at the time, we thought it was gonna benefit, and it
Yeah,
hasn't
and it
worked
hasn't.
because it has cost a lot of overtime, it
It's
has
cost more
cost us
money.
because they give people luck with FMLA or anything else, especially on the Saturday shift, at Tuesday, or Wednesday to Saturday shift. Saturday you have, temporary crew, or temporary, but he's a part-time
These are
crew
all the
leader
things
with
I'm
one other
hearing.
guy. There's supposed to be 4 people there, so now you gotta bring in 2 guys, now there's a storm, now you have to bring other people who don't work those normal days on overtime to cover the storm. I mean, I thought it was a great idea.
I'll go and renegotiate next year.
I'm just saying, everything I'm hearing.
Yeah, we can discuss.
Okay, I just wanted to put it on the
I was
table.
born out of this meeting
No, you're
when I negotiated.
And this was me, as the president of the union at the time, that negotiated this, the time we thought it was gonna work, and I'll be honest with you, it hasn't, worked.
Okay.
But my thing is, Donald, so the question I got is probably the one of the very,
I'll negotiate anything you want, doesn't matter.
Let you know, yeah, he's got the same.
excuse me.
Nope.
So one of the things, question I got is, we know that we get money for cardboard and metal. How does that off balance with the cost at the transfer station, or does it off balance with the cost at the transfer station?
We will never be cost neutral at the.
Oh, never, but
We
do
will
we?
never, in a million years, be cost neutral at the transfer
And the
station.
commodities change, so cardboard's good for a 6-month period and then it goes down and something
Right.
else goes
I mean,
up, so.
but, I mean, is that money that we do get every time that we bring a load in, it's gonna do with the metal, when Dave comes in, we call him Dave the metal guy.
Right, yeah, we do get that, and John gets the benefit of that, so it goes that way.
Of the scrap metal?
Scrap metal and the cardboard, I mean, we get money for that, so how much are we getting in,
That's a good question.
request it.
you know?
I'll do some digging.
That's one of the things I don't know about.
Well, that should, because that offsets Donald's budget. I mean, that's money he's getting in that he doesn't get the benefit from, which
Right,
helps
I was just
offset
saying
the
here
cost
somewhere
of the transfer station.
Where's it going?
He said,
Doug, with your question?
Well, I just want an answer, if that's possible, where does that money go to when we get the cardboard and the metal money, where does that go into, what account?
We have
Then I'm done.
one of the accounts in the revenues, charges for services,
Similar to the building
bulky
inspection
waste
fees.
fees. So we have a revenue line item in the general fund, so the revenues, the money that comes into the town, it needs to be reported in different areas, you know, there's obviously money that comes in, expenditures are what goes out, we don't net the two against each other. Well, I net the two when it comes to how much we need to charge, how much of a mill rate we need. So I take the total amount of the expenditures that we have, so we pay out the total amount in expenses, what the Board of Ed pays out in expenses, add those two up. I subtract out all of the different sources of revenue that we budget for, and that's in here at the beginning of the general fund piece. I subtract out all of those, The difference is what we need to collect through taxes. Now, the different sources are state grants, that's the biggest share, that's about $32 million. Then we have building permits, we have the fines and forfeitures, those are very minimal. Licenses and permits, so we budgeted about, this year, the building permits, we budgeted $1.1 million for building permits this year. So all those numbers I subtract out to get a net number, that's what we need to collect in taxes.
Yeah, but it doesn't tell me how much we're getting back in from the cardboard and metal, and including the sales of our old vehicles that they put on the auction. Where does that money go? Does that go back to,
No, the auction vehicles, there is an account in the capital projects fund, Fund 310, where all of our capital equipment, where that money comes into there. Periodically, you guys will get a transfer request where if we need to buy a vehicle or a piece of equipment, once the money's built up enough in there, we will appropriate that revenue. Okay, so right now, the actual revenue that we've received in that account is more than what's been budgeted, and we'll say, all right, that difference, all right, we wanna take this $30,000 and buy something, we might need to buy something with it.
yeah.
And that is a council transfer that we do periodically when there's sufficient funds in there.
So we don't have like, when we get the money back, there's no like, okay, let's just say the auction and or the cardboard and metal. Like, so when that cardboard and metal the money comes back for that doesn't go back to DPW, it stays in some other
The
account.
cardboard piece of it will be in one of these revenue accounts
Okay,
in here. I'd have to look the specific account that we put that money into. It could be bulky waste fees, I'm not sure.
yeah, I'm just trying to find a way of helping balance the transfer station and the cost of what the taxpayers have to pay
Right.
for their trash and recycling.
Right,
So I
and
mean,
then,
that,
so if that money comes into this, one of these sections here, and it's one of the revenue line items, and I'll look up the specifics on the cardboard and the environmental, those fees that come in.
yeah, I'm not trying to add more work to you, because I know you're busy enough, but it'd be
But-
nice to know if we can balance these other
I
costs.
just, off the top of my head, I just don't
No,
have.
that's fine, that's fine.
And, but that money comes in, and it does offset, it doesn't specifically offset the transfer station. It offsets all of the expenses of the general fund, if you will.
So basically, everybody, from your department to everybody else.
Right.
Right, that doesn't seem like good, but okay, but thank you.
Well,
No, I, again, that's probably the way it's been, and I understand, but I just think that whatever revenue a certain department comes into, it should go back to that. Cause if it's gonna help with the cost of things, that's the way it should be, in my opinion.
The
but-
reason why it's not allowed, because the council's the one that should be able to dictate where it goes once she gets revenue, not that department.
Right, but there should be a line item showing, like the building
Well, that's
department,
different.
he
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
I need this budget, but I'm bringing in this much.
Right.
In solid waste, and Donald's, to his defense, they're bringing in a revenue he's getting zero credit for, and scrap metal.
Well,
That's gotta be a
the-
decent amount of money,
Just finding out what
50,
the number is
60
versus giving him the power to spend that money.
I understand that,
Okay,
but
that's-
at least
that's
if
the-
we as a
why not?
council could see
Yeah,
that he's getting credit for $60,000
yeah, like
of
permits,
scrap
like
metal,
building permits, you
that's
showed
a
how,
benefit for
how
him.
1.5 million you're getting in permits, that, they should get credit for
But
that.
it should be the same thing for that
Absolutely.
too.
Right,
And even, yes, it goes into a general fund,
right.
but at least it shows DPW's bringing in money, yard waste, all of that, so.
And there's a formula for it, so it's done, similarly with the vehicles, right? Like this could be put in a separate account, but then gets only used on certain things. I think that makes a lot of sense. Because at some point, I'm sure people will have a discussion, should we do private waste? And I'm very against that. I think this makes sense, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and I'm done, thank you.
Okay, Counselor Santinella.
Donald, is there anything that I, as a resident, can do with my trash that's gonna reduce the cost for the town?
Don't generate any.
Burn it.
Not possible.
Yeah.
But is there anything that we can do, need people to do differently? you know, we mentioned like the shredding event, for example, does that help the town? Is that,
Yeah, it's all about diversion, cause we pay per ton, so for example, today, we got information about a mattress place that we can do. So people aren't disposing of their mattresses via the transfer station, and there's something that we can get back from that. The textile organization that we used for Earth Day took in, I forget what the number was, a huge amount of items. They would now like to place a container here, that helps us, they maintain it, we don't have to do anything with it. But anything that can be taken out of the waste stream, which is why food composting is now the hot topic for people to do that. I mean, it's a hard sell, but think back 25, 30 years ago when we were being told we had to separate recycling from trash and use red and blue barrels, that was a huge thing, and now people do it like it doesn't matter. So food composting and keeping food waste out of the waste stream is probably the next big thing that you're gonna see attached to this overall policy discussion.
so what other diversion programs can we implement? Or should we be implementing diversion programs more frequently to help with this $108 a ton issue that we're having?
I mean,
Are we doing enough of those things to mitigate that? And where in the budget, I don't know that there's anything in the budget that's supporting that kind of activity.
you know, overall, from where I sit, the best thing that the town has done has converted to the sidearms, the pickup. So we've automated them, we've added lids, so you're not having soaking wet trash or recycling, which increases the weight. You are cutting down on potential workers' comp and injury issues by having trash be automated pickup and yard waste and everything. It's really just a continual education issue, and honestly, dealing with the commodities market and having people be open to it. Community gardens are great, organic composting is great, all of these things, but you have to really entice people to do it, and what's the benefit for them to do it? To someone at the point that said it earlier, it's how it directly impacts their tax rate. That's the conversation and that's the education, very similar to the ones about recycling that happened a generation ago.
The last question on this end is, you know, admittedly, cans and bottles, I throw them in recycling, right? I leave the nickel on the table and I just throw it in recycling. Is there, okay, I get it, I know, I'm irresponsible, but
Going through the
but
recycling barrel.
is there, but it goes in the recycling, but is there a way to recover some value from people like me who don't care about the nickel? I don't use a lot of bottles, right?
Oh,
So
I'll offer you a solution, I donated to Loaves and Fishes, they'll take the time to get the money back. So that way you're not putting it in the recycling, a diversion
Right.
goes to there, and then or the Boy Scouts or whoever else.
Gary
So I
Rapids
guess-
and for
Gary
kids.
Rapids,
Yeah.
cancer.
Right.
Yeah, but not every resident, you
Guys,
opened it
yeah,
up.
listen.
You opened it up.
No, I did, but this is the thing, so look, the average,
I know what you're
so
saying,
the
John.
person who isn't interested in recycling, right? Is there something easy that we can do at home that makes segregating those somehow deliver value back to the town? I get all these charity things.
No,
I'm
you made me
just-
laugh, I'm not, no, I agree with
Well,
you.
listen, you know,
Made me laugh.
there is actually a company that will come
Yeah, I know.
and they will come to your house.
Yep.
They will scan your garbage can, scan all of your bottles, and then give you a receipt for that. You just have to segregate your bottles. I'm not suggesting we do that, but is there something like that, or some way that we can, again, I'm not trying to solve the recycling problem, but I'm trying to solve the $108 a ton problem to create more diversion programs. That's why I'm asking the question.
All right, thanks, John.
The transfer station has a.
Getting back to Councilor Santinello's idea. From what I hear, what you're saying is maybe the town could implement a particular program to generate funds with cans, bottles, anything to defray the cost of putting it in there and having this additional recycling to get a rebate, which we don't get rebates anymore for, you know, so, I don't know, I guess something, that, you know, something that we
One of
can
the-
think about.
One of the biggest things is glass, that people think that it was a big thing, that it's, you know, you can use it, you can crush it. The majority of the glass that comes in is garbage, because it's either, it has, the labels can't take it off. It's contaminated with either food or whatever the heck is in that bottle, so they can't reuse it, so it winds up going as trash. So when, the new recycling facility, down in Berlin, actually has computer and laser technology and stuff like that, it can read good glass versus bad glass, blows that puff of air, and it takes the bad glass and shoots it off, and that goes out this way. And it also, once the good glass goes through, then they color sort it by clear, green, brown, and whatever, and that gets sent to a different pile, but that is full state-of-the-art, brand new, way beyond modern technology, kind of stuff like that. It's amazing how much glass is actual garbage, and that's one of the heaviest things out there. Again, people, that's one of the heaviest things, but I would love to get glass out of the recycling stream, but I can't readily say that, and it's against, you know, it's probably not a good thing.
All right, you just hold on a minute, Ken. I'm gonna go back to the question of shifts. All right, in your opinion, the staggered shifts are not working well for us at this point. And in your opinion, if we went back to a 5-day work week, all right, and we had overtime on Saturday, and do you think that there would be a dramatic savings in the overtime? Or do you think the overtime would be approximately the same as what we've been experiencing, even with the staggered shifts? Because when we started the staggered shifts, the reason why we went to that is to eliminate many hours of overtime. All right, so either we don't have enough employees, or you have a number of employees that don't wanna work on a Saturday and don't wanna go into that shift, so to say.
Right, well, they also have their benefit of time as well. So we have four people that work on Saturday. And if you wanted to take a day off, you just wanted to take a day off, so you take your day out, your day could be Saturday. So now we're down to 3. And somebody calls out, now we're down to 2, then we backfill with somebody who's already worked during the week. So that, again, our employees still can use their benefit of time, and that's where some of that, having that 4-person, in theory, if they never took a day off, would always work on that Saturday, but it's really never the case, because you have illness, you have FMLA, you've got benefit of time.
One of the reasons why that staggered shift was born, because all the mowing that needs to take place, if it's raining on a Monday, Tuesday, we already have the crew ready to go on a Friday, Saturday, without overtime, we can just keep mowing. And get the ball fields ready on the weekends. That was a big driver of our
Yeah, I
problem.
know that was a driver, however, I think that the ultimate driver was to cut down on the overtime.
Well, this
And-
contract's opening up next year, so.
So I mean, that's something that we really have to look at and examine. If every single one of these departments, if you look at the number of overtime for each one of your departments within DPW, those hours are staggering. And the amount of money that we're forking out for that is, you know, I think we have to look at it. And if we have to go back to a 5-day work week and just go to a regular overtime on Saturday, and if we have to have snowstorms on Sundays or Saturdays and the workers have to come in and take care of the roads, then we have to, you know, abide by that. But if the original intent was to save money with the overtime, with the staggered shifts, and if that's not working, then we have to re-examine that to say, okay, let's go back to a regular work week and just offer the overtime on Saturday.
And there's other shifts available too, we can maybe even propose a 4 10-hour shift and they get 3-day weekends and you
But I mean,
stagger that,
I think that's something that
I
that
think,
we have to look
you know, and I
at.
agree with Don 100%. Again, this is all my fault, being president at the time. It is,
That was
it's
a
my
tough
fault, it was
vote,
my
too.
idea.
It was a tough vote.
Sorry, don't shoot me, but,
I thought Gina's idea, I remember Gina
no,
was.
that was my idea.
Well, you know,
Gina was against it.
there's one other thing that
Oh,
you
she
need to
won the ball.
continue to discuss is the fact that a lot of this is generated by the significant work that we do for some of our nonprofit organizations.
Bingo.
So
Bingo, right there.
if you wanna cut down and eliminate
no to
some of the
some.
demands that are incorporated with your facility use policies and what we do every weekend at Shaker and all the other fields, that is a huge driver. So just recognize that there's a balance between what some people perceive as an expectation and quality of life and what the toll is on the Public Works Division to provide those services to those organizations.
Donald, is there any department that you think at this point in time needs more employees? Or any department you think needs less employees? Or do you think that you have proper staffing for every department right now?
I think we have proper staffing, except for WPC.
Except for WPC?
Which we have a good plan.
Okay, so you're happy with custodial, you're happy
Yes.
with the number of guys that you have on buildings and grounds?
Yes.
Okay,
With having an HVAC person to take the work off of Butch, and also having a plumber to fill that
well,
position.
I'm very concerned that whatever if something happens to Butch, we're in
Shut the
real
lights,
deep
shut the lights
trouble.
off in this town. This
You
guy
know,
does everything.
I mean, he
Plumber,
really does it all.
HVAC, and electric.
And-
That's why we have an
Yeah.
open PO with the local plumber, HVAC, and we have to keep those open, when Butch goes away on vacation. If there's something that, our B&G staff can't handle, if it's beyond that, again, we have to outsource to those trades. And we have open POs that we carry throughout the year, again, for Butch to have his benefit of time.
I mean,
Well, it's good to, just hold on a second.
I'm sorry, Bob.
Well, it's good to hear you say that you believe in each one of your departments you have proper staffing with the exception of WPC.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
so,
So I'm good, we're gonna go back to
all right,
Councilor
so, I mean, I
Craig.
kind of disagree, I'm sorry, did you want?
No.
So I agree but disagree with him in one department, which is highway, because he's having issues filling trucks in the winter time for plowing and stuff, and that department used to have 18 people in it, we're down to 9, really. On any given day, you might have 6 in there, I mean, that's just my, I mean, I'm sure you would agree about the winter time, because we've had this conversation many a times. We're even used our director of public works in the truck, we always have to go back and clean up after
But
him.
not all employees wanna volunteer to plow, right?
That's right, but if you bring in like the new people we got now
Yeah.
are working.
I know.
These are new people, they're not the old guys like me, who have had enough after
But
30.
that doesn't mean we need new employees, we just need employees who are there to volunteer.
For the work that they have,
Yeah.
I think it needs to be.
Councilor
That's just my
Unger,
opinion.
And then Councilor Nelson.
We're good, sorry, thank you.
Is there a list of all the nonprofits that we help take care of? I mean, I think it's very commendable that we do that, but is that common across the state?
No,
And is there some type of science that we could,
it's the science of making sure that none of you are getting phone calls from your disgruntled constituents, cause
Their
the
soccer field's
fields are
not
not
mowed,
the way they want them to be.
Fourth of July committee isn't staffed,
Parades,
whatever.
benches.
Is there,
Well,
what
I'm
about the
just
ones that
wondering if
pay?
there's a list.
Can we
I
offset
can
it
get
at
you a
all?
list.
yeah,
I have
just
a
see a
list.
list of.
But don't
hopefully
some
they
of them
all
pay?
are.
Very few.
Some
No.
have plenty of.
Yeah, the for-profits pay, the nonprofits don't, so
Nonprofits.
everybody switched to nonprofit.
So I mean, we service a number of the
Right.
nonprofits,
We just did
everything is an in-kind service to
Looking at
them.
that.
This is the
Councilor
result of it.
I mean, we just did it for EFRC, this is the result of it,
So
so.
it's 3:30 through 3:33. And that's, there's some,
Right, so again, he's picking up the slack of a policy that we made, not charging, and
So-
the charge is that overtime.
Well, the other thing you have to look at nonprofits, for example, when they have like Kite or anything, the festivals, the Halloween,
Jack-o'-lantern
Jack-o'-lantern festival, or any festival that happens in here, everybody wants everything for zero. You know, so there goes
Thank you.
the police, there goes custodial services, and there goes
Building grounds.
the fee, buildings and grounds. Every one of those, departments are used, and it costs a lot of money.
So the celebrations line item that you fund goes for the overtime. It does not go for straight time. So the best example is, I think it was like
For the
$14,000 in straight time, or was it more than that? It was about $14,000 that got absorbed by the Public Works budget last July for the 3 days or more leading up to the festival and the 3+ days following to take it down. And we had a park graffiti spree during that period, and I couldn't get anybody to go and deal with the graffiti because there were 2+ dozen public works employees on the green.
And the graduation too.
And then the graduation led right into that, so it's a lot. And I tried to impart to the nonprofits that would come in for their planning meetings that this may not be business as usual moving forward. Unless you expand the celebrations line item to include straight time costs incurred, which I'm not recommending because you're already in a budget dilemma, then we have to work with these nonprofits who wanna provide quality of life, great events to the community to find alternative means of accomplishing what they want to accomplish, including bringing back the prison crews to construct the stage and all of these other things. But as I said to one group, why do you need to close down North Main Street? Cause that means that we mobilize across 3 divisions. Well, we don't wanna go to Higgins Park, we wanna be here. Well, you know what, maybe it's time that we say, that's too bad, we now have a park and that's where your event is happening. We can't close down a road, reroute a fire department, create, police blockades, we have public works blockading. That cost, because of the whim of, well, this is what we've always done and this is what we like, is just it's not working anymore. So I can be the bad guy because I'm the new person in town asking the questions about why is this done this way? None of the answers that I got last year for any of the events were appropriate.
Are you done, Lori?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Counselor Nelson, then Counselor Mangy.
Okay, now that I calmed down a little over Church Street, and that wasn't directed at you, it's just, it's
Wasn't
been
even
less.
here when that happened.
Well, it's less than 10 years and we already got failing drainage. So my question would be, you gave a good explanation and the nonprofits is it's a wake-up call. Yes, you're eating the cost of actions this council makes by waiving the fees for using softball fields and stuff. But seeing those numbers on the screen is real. So can you tell me that that's not gonna be there next year? Or are you telling me you need that next year? Because I wanna know, do we have to adjust your budget next year to cover that 70,000 in that one line? And take all of them. Right, so all your red lines there, is that gonna be a reoccurring problem if we don't?
Counselor, where are you seeing the 70,000?
The 69.
69.
That was FY '22.
Right,
'23, we're down 28,000 right now. The right side is FY '23 actuals.
That's a big difference. 'Cause we-
right, so still there's 30,000 there.
Yeah.
So the year before you were 70, you did a phenomenal job dropping it down to 28, and I apologize, cause I was looking at the wrong year. But in this future year coming up, so we're not sitting here doing this next year, can you adjust that 28,000, or do you need that 28,000?
It depends on there's so many factors that go to that. We've been running steady at, I think 202 has been a comfortable number. We've been higher or lower. There's some of the divisions, again, if we have a lighter winter, we'll move money around to backfeed that. But again, if there's a whole bunch of movement, or if people decide to move on from custodial, that's the biggest thing, because they are the biggest, again, we have 58 employees, and that's the killer is that internal movement and the backfilling of the time, so.
Forget custodial, I'm talking about all of them as well, you only got 2 up there this year, now that I'm looking at the right line.
Yes.
So buildings and grounds, 4,800?
That's driving overtime with a staggered shift? See, that doesn't make sense to me. You're saying it's so
That's right
expensive
now,
having,
but
yeah,
that's
but
still,
what do we, 10 months?
that's as of April 30th, we said 2
Okay, so
more
we got
months to go.
May and June, we got 2 more months, and you're saying that this staggered shift is driving high overtime. That doesn't, your numbers aren't making sense what you said.
But we don't do fields during the winter time, so
So that's gonna jump,
that's gonna jump up dramatically, yes.
well,
Okay.
now we can monitor that then.
Right, and so that's what I'm asking you, is in your budget to eliminate them, are you adding in money so that doesn't happen again next year?
No, we've been trying to have some sort of stewardship to the budget, we could pad it, but then we're back to other things saying we're there's fluff and all the other kind of stuff, and I don't wanna do that, we're just trying to be realistic with it. So we've been taking averages, looking over back and forth, however many years before, And that seems to be the most reasonable number, so.
So we can expect a $50,000 jump in overtime for the next 2 months, is what you're saying, cause last year it was 55, and you said we're just hitting this mowing season. That's, I don't even know if there's enough days to,
I don't know if it's gonna be 55,000, that was an anomaly, because we had a lot more
Well,
last year.
I'd be
Yeah,
curious to
storms and
know.
everything else.
I'd like to really
All
screw up that number.
But I think you understand what I'm saying
I
is,
understand.
I don't like seeing red numbers at the end of the year, because to me, that says we didn't do a real budget. You know, we ran numbers light, and you look bad at the end of the year because you overspent. So I wanna do a real budget, and if you're averaging $30,000 a year in overtime, well, then we're budgeting wrong. If you're going over 30,000, you know, we should be adding that. If you've got a 10-year history of that and we can't adjust it or change it, we need to add it in the budget, so it's a real number. My next one is, mattresses. And I'm shooting myself in the foot, but Enfield is the only place around that takes a mattress by weight. If I take those mattresses to USA Trash Hauling, or they're in a dumpster, or anywhere, you're $20 a mattress. My question is USA charging us $20 a mattress when I throw one in the dumpster and it costs me $1 because of the weight?
No, by the way.
It's all by bulky weight.
Through, even to USA.
The ones that goes into the bulky container, that's still considered, we're part of that bulky rate, and that goes
Okay.
out, whatever, no matter what's in that trailer.
Okay,
And, I'm sorry, let me
No,
interrupt
go
one
ahead.
quick second. We even tried that company that had the big trailer, remember? I don't know if you wanna talk about it, but we had a company.
I wasn't here for that, so.
Okay, well, we had, there's a company that takes mattresses, they bring in a big 18-wheeler, box, you know, for an 18-wheeler vehicle. And the residents have to put the mattresses into the box, they gotta stack them both, so on and so on. So the concerns were, somebody gets hurt, is the town liable for it? Two, if they put in a dirty mattress full of bugs and stuff like that, so when the company takes it back and they find it, they bring the whole shipment back to Enfield and we get charged for that. So, and we don't have the location at the transfer station to have that big trailer there. That's why we do wait.
no, I understand that, but if, even if we're throwing them in the dumpster, like I can bring a whole trailer load of trash to USA. I dump it on the ground, they go through it with that excavator in 2 seconds flat, and there goes the mattress, it's like, there's $20, I got caught, you know? And so, my question was, if we're getting charged, we're losing a ton of money there, we're not getting charged. So I don't think it's right to add a charge to the residents more than what we're paying.
That's one of the reasons that we stopped taking tires. Because once they saw tires at Babylon's, it was $10 per tire.
Yes,
So,
same thing,
Yeah, right,
same
same exact
principle,
thing, so that's why
but
we
we're
stopped.
not there with mattresses. And that's a tough one, because you know, if we start charging $20, we're gonna find them on the side of the roads
you know
everywhere.
what's even
So-
worse is that the companies that they buy them from charge you a mattress.
Well, you're seeing it
Recycling
now
fee.
anyway.
Right.
You're seeing mattresses and you're
Well,
seeing
it's-
tires, you're seeing everything all over. all
Right,
over.
because
We
they
get
don't
tons
know
of
the
mattresses.
dump, Enfield will take a mattress and it works out to be like $1 as long as it's not wet. And my last one is, and you can correct, he's not here, John, I think, was referring to how many of these plastic bottles equal a ton of weight? Now, I'm not asking, it's hypothetical, but the point is, if you take that amount of plastic bottles that all have 5-cent returnables on them, how much money are we throwing away in the stream? And I think that's what John was getting at. I understand, cause I'm kidding, but I do the same thing, I don't recycle these. And for me to take them and bring them to Raffia's, I could recycle them, you know, or I could return them. If I'm gonna bag them up and store them and let the bugs get them and then 2 months later take them to the grocery store, I could take them to, I don't, they go in the recycling bin. But we're throwing away, it's gotta be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Ken, you have a new profession that you could do, you go and everybody's recycling and.
But we
pick up
bring the
money.
recycling to
understand what you're saying.
Enfield, right? They get dumped at the land, transfer station?
Cycle goes straight to Babylon's.
We go direct about.
Oh, I thought we used to dump them at,
We used to.
Used to.
okay, so they're not, okay, alright, so that eliminates that.
Counselor Ludwig.
No, I don't speak for Jeff, but we were talking about when we go after state grants. Again, here's an idea where, again, if we're gonna go out and help a business, get a state grant, maybe we need to rethink it, and then there's a benefit to our cost if we did it, right? Because you're actually encouraging a business that actually can help reduce our overall cost of doing business. That's what John, is exactly what we were talking about. But Donald, in fairness to you, I think, when it comes to overtime, we did this a few years ago, where, again, it was up to the council to help, again, so to your right, we put you folks in a position where, okay, you know what, we want to hold costs, but then the first time someone wants to use a facility, wants to get charged for it, again, we all just voted for the EFRC, the true cost for that is like $300,000 to $400,000, and that's fine, we made a decision, but this is where it comes to roost. And when it comes to overtime, it's a council decision. I'd like us to cut overtime and then have that, what we did a few years ago, where it was, again, look, before we went out and did something, it was this joint decision by the council whether we're gonna do it or not. Did it through leadership, hey, do you wanna spend to have, overtime for a tournament on blah, blah, blah? We decided yes or no. So it took a little bit of the heat off of you folks, and we're the Board of Finance, and we should be managing overtime, in my opinion. And that's what we did 5 years ago, I know we've gotten away from it. But that helped also, to your point, when someone's calling you and saying, I wanna use this field, and I pay my taxes, and next thing you know, it costs us $70,000 of overtime. I mean, you gotta do the math, point A, point B, A plus B does equal C, and that's a decision the council, I think, has to make. We should be a little more tighter on managing overtime. And have that, hey, before it's agreed upon, it's a decision that goes through leadership, that goes through their caucuses, and yes or no, so it's a joint decision. Sometimes we say yes, sometimes we say no. And I think that's just something other counselors have to think about, because I think that's, in my opinion, that's the right way of managing overtime. Because again, we can't say yes to everybody. I know we'd like to, but unless you want a $13 million tax increase, which I don't, you gotta say no once in a while. And the last thing, Donald, and I appreciate all your answers, again, I think when it comes to some of the trash things, and I think one of the things we can do, and again, is to really get organized, and I don't know if we do it as a town, and say, look, we can't keep down this road where you went from a $13 charge to a $107 charge within 3 years, and we have nowhere to dispose of the recycling. Maybe it's a policy decision we make, but it's something that we think is a priority that we have to do as a council, and I'm not saying you do. And again, there's gonna be ideas, but that's the reality of it, and unfortunately, a year from now, maybe even more than this, depending on what happens. Because, I know there's still, I think, right, there's still, correct me if I'm wrong, right, we're still not exactly sure next year where we're gonna be disposing of this, correct? So right now, I know we have it's a temporary solution, it's not a permanent solution.
So we are contracted until June 30 of this year for both recycling and MSW. We have reached out to Covanta and to USA, and they have gave us the prices, and I have to process, I'm waiting for something, then I'll be coming to you for a waiver.
Not even after people gotta realize, this is not a one-time thing, this is ongoing and it may get worse. Yeah.
When you look at that, from 2021 to now, to $500,000.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
It's ludicrous.
Yeah.
But this is something that we have to, as a council, take a look at. This is very serious. It's a huge jump in the budget. So.
Did I say when that whole thing fell through down in Hartford for the trash, the waste to energy plant with Sarconi, I think it's Sarconi or Saccaroni, whatever it was, that's a big killer too for all that. So there really just nowhere to go with this stuff.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And plus they refused to open up Ellington, remember?
Yeah.
Councilor Mangini.
Okay, one final question.
And I think we're good.
Donald, I don't know if you can answer this question, maybe Ellen might be in a position to, I'm not sure. With the special celebrations, there's a chunk, 86,000 plus. I know some of us on the council are interested in knowing what's it going to. I mean, you've got the 4th of July, you've got the pumpkin, you've got Family Day, but who is asking for what, and how much is going to Public Works? Is there any way we can get that broken down?
Yep, I circulated a spreadsheet of that last summer when I was trying to grapple with it, and I'm just trying to pull it up right now. Oh, do you have it?
You wanna go on screen?
No.
No.
But out of the, as I just continue to see if I can find it, out of the $85,000, 4th of July is the first event out of the gate, it is the largest event. And all of the overtime that gets allocated to there amounts to almost $45,000. So then you have roughly $30,000 that is left for the following events. There is no rhyme or reason to this, but traditionally the events have been Family Day, the Jack-o'-lantern Festival, and the 2 parades, the Veterans Day events and the Memorial Day Parade.
Torch.
And no, they don't get it.
Is
Looks like
4th of July parade included in that? Okay.
Any overtime that police, EMS, and Public Works accumulate during the period of time associated with those events, the overtime is charged to celebrations. However, mostly for 4th of July, but also for some of the smaller ones, there are straight time costs that are absorbed within the departmental budgets that are not allocated. I did capture those costs, and I do have a spreadsheet that I will forward back out to all of the town council. I wanna make sure that it's up to date, it may not have some of the later events.
Torchlight's included though.
I just have one
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, cause you got Butch Latricia staying.
No, I'm still talking.
No.
Sorry, Cindy.
Okay, you're forgiven,
Thank you.
fellow soccer coach. That I think would be very helpful to try and understand a little better.
So in just as a clarification to Councilor Finger's point, Torchlight is a big parade. We do not, at least, nobody has shown me that they're allocating to that line item. There are smaller events that have asked, we have not allocated to that line item. There are new events coming on that are asking, Juneteenth, the P-Flag events that are coming up in June. They're asking, can we have some kind of consideration for our costs? We're working with one of them, both of them actually, I think, for our cost for porta potties, so we're passing on that significant savings to them. But one of them has asked for a police officer and they want it charged to celebrations. I cannot in good conscience tell them yes or no yet because we're so close to the end of the fiscal year and we haven't had the Memorial Day parade. I don't know what's left in there. So it just bleeds through over the course of the beginning of the fiscal year to the end.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Biznick?
Okay, just 2 quick questions underneath the annual budget for boards and commissions. I'm looking at cultural arts and there is quite a jump. I'm assuming that is for the bands at the band shell. Yes. Okay. And the other one that I saw a big jump in was the agricultural and conservation. That went from like 2986 up to 17986.
It went from what?
It went up like $15,000.
So they asked for money for an agricultural summit, something that they used to do, as Nantucket.
Yep.
Okay.
I thought that was in my budget, so I'm not I don't know what, I'd have to go back and look at that detail.
I'm just looking, those were the 2 that, and I knew the band shell, but I wasn't sure about
When
that
they
one.
submitted their budget, they included a request to
They
go
used
back
to do
yeah.
that, they used to do the symposium and that's fine, but those were just the only 2, and I knew the band shell would create for the bands.
Yeah, that did, I will get you detail on that one.
Okay, now, does that include anything from the celebration, cause we're probably gonna need an officer,
That's just overtime.
so that's gonna go under overtime for,
So the officers, the CPOs that are on duty.
they're gonna be there.
They will be there as part of their usual. The chief did say that if the event grows, he might feel more comfortable with an assigned officer that we would have to build into the budget. But we do not have one as of right
The
now.
one, and again, I don't care either way personally, but the one question I keep getting asked about the band shell is alcohol.
Yeah.
Will people be allowed to bring coolers? Because 4th of July or anything like that, there's no coolers allowed on the green.
Because that competes with them.
Yeah,
so
but
alcohol.
should there be coolers, I mean, who becomes liable on that then? If we again, I think it's a great idea, but I think it has to have a discussion. because that could create,
I know other towns, if the town's not providing, they bring their own versus,
Yeah.
if the town providing it,
but if
there's.
it's truly a family event, and I think it's a
Your family had
discussion.
wine.
Yeah, but I wouldn't bring it with my family and
No,
drink it on
no.
the town green.
No, true.
If I bring my grandchildren here,
Yeah.
I'm not bringing wine and drinking it in front of them on the town
And
green.
that is,
Well, it's something
Well,
that we're
this-
gonna have
I'm
to
just saying, it's up
discuss.
for, I've been getting the
Yeah.
question a lot.
No, that's a good
I
question.
am just saying, I'm getting the question a lot. So, cause you've got some bands there that are going to, Johnny Six Guns and whatever, they're great bands, but
You're gonna attract the people who.
you're going to
Right.
attract the people.
You're stereotyping.
Ellen,
This needs to go to
Excuse
diversity.
me, we have one final question.
Ellen, when you do the, I don't know if you can do this or not, for the breakout, it would be interesting to know the expenses for the 4th of July. How much is attributed to the tickets they give out, you know, for the hospitality tent? I mean, I think that's a lot of their cost, and that's fine, but then, to your point, we are allocating too much taxpayer money. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, I think that's part of it, that they give out too many hospitality tickets.
Mike, I can address
Councilor
that.
Banjini and
to
then
some
Councilor
degree.
Rivera. We can go, remember, this is DPW that we're. Okay, so if we wanna have this discussion, we can end the meeting and talk about this after, but go ahead, I'll allow it.
I have a DPW question. Donald, can you tell us the difference of the cost for salt, you know, or salt that we put on the roads? I mean, that has to go on up sky high from maybe 2 years ago to now or something, I would think, or maybe even sooner, you know, than.
Just the
I mean,
transportation cost.
just this way here, people will know that it's a high cost, I think, you know?
Our cost is $67.04 a ton.
And do you know what it was a couple of years ago or no?
It was about 57.
So obviously that's coming too.
So,
And demand.
so you look at that, you look at the gasoline, the diesel.
Yeah.
You look at, you know, those are skyrocketing expenses.
Everything's.
I think the town should build a big apartment building for all its employees and let them sleep there. And
Well, I think everybody that works for
Drilling
town
for
should live in
oil.
town.
I do.
I've said that for the last,
Well,
I-
don't
I've-
get no
I'm-
employees to work here.
I'm gonna be honest with you though, I've said this from day one, from
That's
20,
but that's an
30 years
emotional
ago.
argument.
First,
And
You gotta have stake
we
in the
can't get
game.
employees at all to work here, out of town.
excuse
You'll
me,
have no one
everyone.
working. Who's gonna work?
First of all, I wanna thank Donald Moons for his presentation
That's an
tonight.
emotional argument.
We just kinda wanna wrap up
Used to be
here.
that way.
When you had more people on the-
Donald, thank you very much,
I believe
it was very
employers should be held
informative,
hostage.
and, now we
Employers
will.
should be held hostage.
see what
Thank
we're
you,
gonna do.
Donald.
Thank you,
Thank you, Donald.
Appreciate it,
You
thank
know, I
you.
was expecting dessert at the end of this, but that's okay, you get a pass this time.
If you can just give me the answer on Church Street, that it wasn't full reconstruction and, cause a lot of these roads, it's just, you know, Route 5, they just paved it and less than 2 months later, it's got a huge pothole in it. I mean, we gotta start having accountability for this stuff.
3.1.
And that's not on you guys, but you know, maybe we just don't use these contractors anymore.
Okay, can I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Counselor Pisner and a second by Counselor Mansfield, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. The meeting is over, thank you, everyone.